Carol is a business coach and a consultant. And I asked her on today because, quite frankly, I don't think most of us really understand the role of funnels in the whole scheme of things. And I know, you know, as I said, people mention that to me so often, but I didn't know what they were about, Carol or Karen. So I'm really hoping that you can, first of all, just explain why we even want to know about funnels as coaches. I mean, what's the point?
Right. So if you want clients, you want to have So I think most people hear about funnels and kind of get overwhelmed. Some of the marketing around funnels and the way people talk around funnels is really complicated, but I try to boil it down for coaches so that they really understand what they are and so then how they can use them. So really what a funnel is your customer's journey in your business. So that's all it is. So it's really thinking about taking somebody who's never heard of you, who doesn't know anything about you, and kind of taking them through your business so they know more and more about your business and then are eventually ready to hire you. And so that's what I say. Why do coaches need a funnel? Because if you want clients, that's an easy way to get the clients.
That's a good reason. But I think, and I should say, not but. I think as coaches, particularly, that's the background that I come from, coaches and counselors, and I don't think we even think in terms of the customer journey or the buyer journey. That's just not something that they don't teach us that when we're getting our certifications. So I wondered if you could, kind of put that in perspective as to why we would want to have a funnel.
Mm-hmm. So we know, especially coaches and consultants, a lot of times working with us is a higher priced offer, right?
Yeah.
And so not everyone is ready to pay us, $10,000 on the day they first meet us, right? So it's definitely thinking about what are some ways that we can get people to learn a little bit about us, kind of get a taste of us. You had talked earlier about brands, about it's your personality. And so you have an interesting sense of humor. Yeah. So, I'm not the best coach for everyone. And so it's really letting people see me, how I work, my personality, to see if we would be a good match or not. So it's hard just, one day for people to land on your services page and say, yes, I want to pay you $10,000, even though I've never seen anything about you, right? So think of ways that they can start to get a little sense of you. And that's why, you've talked about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great way for you to start posting and to do some videos so they get to get a little bit about you before they take that final step of hiring you.
Okay, so wait, I'm getting feedback here. I'm not sure what's going on. We'll just speak softer. We think of LinkedIn, or I often tell people to treat their LinkedIn profile as the start of a sales funnel, that this is what that's about. And I wonder if you could speak to that, as to kind of put that in that order of how we need to think about these things. Mm-hmm. That's not worded well, but I hope you got the question.
Sure. So it's interesting because a lot of coaches say, oh, Karen, I don't have a funnel. But when I actually look at their business and how they're using LinkedIn, it is kind of already a funnel. They just haven't really thought of it in those terms. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. So that the LinkedIn profile or whatever, platform you're on, you need to have a really strong bio that really showcases you, but it needs to be in a way that it's for the client, right? So that everything is in their perspective, not just telling your resume. That's not interesting for anybody, right? They want to know, how are you going to solve this urgent problem that I have? What is your solution? So I think you're right in the about section, in the content we do, having then lead magnet, like you offered today, I think the brand toolkit, and you had a lot of different offers. That is the perfect thing that a lot of coaches have that you can put in your featured section on your LinkedIn, put in the link on your profile, because I really view LinkedIn as a funnel. But as part of that funnel, it's your content, it's your profile, but we're also trying to move people off of LinkedIn, right? Because LinkedIn, we don't own any of the social media platforms. So it's really thinking about
how. Unfortunate, but yes.
Yes, it is.
You can go to jail at any time.
Yeah, I mean, you can be restricted. I've been restricted on LinkedIn before, so it's definitely something we need to think about. We do want to use the power of LinkedIn or social media platforms, but we also want to take people off platform, right? So to our own area. And so having some kind of free lead magnet, whether it's a PDF or a checklist or like your toolkits, having something that gets them off platform so we can get their email. So we have another way to be able to connect with them. So that's a really simple funnel. That's just a lead magnet funnel right there. So
Okay.
I don't have a funnel, but you actually started already.
Okay, yeah. So those are the first pieces. Here I am. I've just decided that, I'm going to start promoting my brand on LinkedIn and get more people through my funnel. And I hear you absolutely about, at some point you have to get them off of LinkedIn, and so I wonder if you could speak to that, from the first time they see your profile and they maybe get your free lead magnet. What would be the next step in that, or how does that progress?
So, now that you have their email, you want to be in touch with them. So it's definitely thinking about email marketing as part of it. So, having most people would have some kind of welcome sequence, so a series of emails that just tells them first about this lead magnet, helps them, maybe you tell them different ways you can use your lead magnet, your checklist.
Yeah.
And then you kind of start to have some emails that really talk about you, how you work, how you help people. Maybe you have some case studies or testimonials that you can share as well. So you have a series of 6 to 8 emails typically, that just so they start to get to know you. So that's like a nurturing email, so that they start to know more and more about your business. Now, through that, you can also be driving them back to LinkedIn, say, oh, I post content every day on LinkedIn, so you can follow me there. So, I mean, it can be kind of a circle as well.
Yeah, that's great.
So that they can stuff in many different places, right? So that we're kind of showing up all the time, so that we are top of mind for these people.
Yeah, that top of mind is a big deal. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the buyer's journey, because I think many of us focus on, we want that person who's ready to make a decision, and really staying top of mind throughout that buyer's journey is so important. I'm wondering, as people progress through this, and they're hitting the next stage in that, what are some of the tools, or better yet, before we get, what are some of the strategies that people might use in developing a funnel?
So when, this was a small kind of lead magnet funnel that we were just talking about, but if you have an offer, some kind of service that you want to promote, you really want to think about the offer first. You can have the best kind of funnel ever, but if your offer isn't interesting for your target audience, it's not going to work. So, really make sure that your offer is really, truly focused on the pain points of that target audience. And so then you have to start to think kind of backwards, right, for that funnel. So, if you have this amazing offer that you have for them, think the next step prior to that. So maybe you would have a webinar presentation, or maybe you would do a challenge. So again, to kind of get people excited about that before you kind of pitch your offer. And again, it might be a lead magnet that's on the same kind of pain point for them that you would have a little bit earlier, so you could get that email. And then before, you're going to start thinking about social media as a great place for you to be able to promote just yourself and kind of talk about about the offer, not exactly what the offer is, but just the same topic, so that you have some social media posts about that. Then maybe you have a lead magnet, and then maybe you have some kind of live event, like you're in a summit like we're doing.
Sure.
Then could lead them to your ultimate offer.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So here I am. I didn't just figure out LinkedIn, because you never figure out LinkedIn. But I've got the basics of my sales funnel. But as a new coach, I can particularly remember this. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't have a way of housing that funnel, or of keeping it current. I guess I didn't have the tools, or I didn't have the tool kit, that I needed. So what are some, before we get into specific tools, what are some of the kinds of tools that we might need to know about?
Sure. So, one of the simplest ways that a lot of coaches start with is just having some kind of calendar link, right? So there's Acuity, Calendly, there's many different programs, right? But again, it's starting to have maybe a discovery call with somebody. So you put your link in your LinkedIn profile so they can book a time to talk with you, right? So that's kind of one of the simplest tools. And a lot of people start there, and that's a great place to start.
Okay.
Starting to have conversations, right? And maybe people are connecting with you and you're DM with them, and then you can share your link as well. So that's the simplest way to start. I do think that having some kind of lead magnet is nice. And so you do need an email service provider of some kind, because a lot of times you'll be delivering that lead magnet through email. So there's amazing tools out there now. So, almost anyone works. So just find one that kind of works for how your brain works and how you think. So an email marketing tool of some kind is great. Some kind of web presence. So does it have to be a full-fledged website? A lot of people ask me that. Not necessarily. There are specific funnel tools, but a lot of people start with there are some programs out there that's just kind of like a landing page. And so that's really all you need to get started. Even some email service providers have a landing page as a part of them. So that's the simplest way to start. I mean, then it can go really complex with some of the funnel.
Yeah, but a landing page is simple enough that I think a lot of people would be more inclined to do something like that. Now I see, there are all these different ads out there for programs that will help you build a landing page. My first page that I ever developed, and this really puts time on me, was built in Microsoft Word. Oh, wow. You can imagine, things just kept moving around on the page. It was a mess, but it was, I tried, and there's something to be said for that. But, with all those free tools out there, I know is it Squarespace or something like that. There are a lot of them out there. Are there any guidelines as to what we should be looking at?
Mm-hmm. Some of it is going to depend on how tech savvy the person is. So, luckily, so many of the tools now are more kind of the drag and drop ideas. So you can just drag an image, box and input your image in. So it's much simpler than it was in the past. I actually do like HTML coding for my website and landing pages before. So we're lucky to be where we are in terms of technology. Okay. So look for one that, kind of matches your abilities. So like I said, if it says drag and drop, most of them have some kind of free trial. I recommend people try them out first. Just get a little taste of how it works and see if this is easy for me, or whoa, I don't understand how this works. You need to kind of do that to make sure that you feel comfortable at least being able to put together a simple, basic kind of landing page.
Okay. Yeah, hold on a second. I set something down here and I lost it. Oh, well. So yes, you could spend a lot of money on something like that. Mm-hmm. And people will ask me about that. I use a particular platform that really, whoops, what just happened? Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. I'm going to remove that right now. It just sort of turned up. The different systems, like I have one, I like it, but it's also pretty complicated. Mm-hmm. My virtual assistant who is here, really thank God for him, because he figured it out. I can remember just having these people on chat for 48 hours because I couldn't figure it out. And it's one of these that does everything, so I don't know. Are there advantages to housing something in one platform? I'm just kind of clueless there.
Mm-hmm. So I have mixed feelings about them. So an all-in-one can be quite easier for the right person. But typically what I find with the all-in-ones, they're not good at everything, right? So there's a reason that email marketing service providers are good at email marketing. That's all they do. That's what they focus on.
Yeah.
Do you get as good kind of email delivery rates with an all-in-one? That's questionable. But if that takes away some of the tech questions and the tech worry that you have, then go for the all-in-one. Like I said, I really try to work with people wherever they are in kind of the tech spectrum, how they feel about using tech, and make sure that we can find a solution that is kind of gives them the tools that they need, but is just easy enough to work with them. And luckily now, like I said, there's just a broad range of tools. So there's definitely something that each person can find.
Okay, yeah, I know that I can get really confused in there really fast. So if I'm just starting to think about sales funnels, as a coach who's, let's say I've been on LinkedIn for a year, I kind of know my way around a little bit. What are some of the questions that we could ask ourselves that, when we're considering something like developing a sales funnel? What should we know about ourselves and our business in order to do that correctly?
Sure.
To do it well.
So I definitely think it helps if you've worked with clients, right? So you already have an offer that's kind of been proven that, people are actually kind of resonating with that. They're actually reaching out to you and hiring you for that. You've gone through the process, so you feel good about whatever kind of back end kind of processes and things that you need.
Okay.
So once you have an offer that's kind of been validated, that's when I think it's the time to start building out, thinking about the sales funnel. And I think the easiest way is to really think about what are the questions that these clients are asking you. And you can really frame your sales funnel kind of around that, because typically, one client is going to have these questions, many other people, potential clients can have the same questions. And so whether it's a live presentation kind of answering those questions and then showing that the offer kind of gives you the whole package for that, your social media content can be around the questions that those clients are asking you, right? So really thinking about those clients. And, I definitely think of funnels, and especially sales funnel, as client focused. So I always like to really make sure that, I'm that way too, I'm getting the right people through, right? If those are the questions that they're having, then I know that those are the right people that are getting to the end. So most likely then they're ready and willing to take that step with me to actually have the solution for these questions and problems that they have. So really look at your ideal client, that target audience, think about those questions and problems that they're having.
So let me ask you this, Karen. When people are thinking about that, or they're getting ready to do that, I agree with you. Being client focused, really knowing your niche, is so important. What are some of the ways that people could find out their niche and what issues people might be having or challenges?
So, if you haven't had a lot of experience working with people, so you don't know it from that, I definitely look at some other bigger, maybe coaches or businesses, and see the kind of content they're putting out, see their offers, and just say, so, I'm doing something similar. Like, I don't want you to copy them, but it's kind of a spark in terms of ideas of, these are the questions or the answers that they're giving for the questions that these potential clients have. So you can kind of think about that in your own terms, make sure you develop your own way, but use that as inspiration for kind of thinking about, these are the things I need to cover as well in my sales funnel, especially because these bigger people maybe are very successful. And so that that's working for them. So that can give you a starting point in terms of, this is where I could start as well.
Okay, well that makes sense. Would you suggest that let me think of how I want to put this. Are there ways that people can use social media to research some of those problems?
Of course. I mean, I think, whether you're following people, you can use hashtags and keyword research. I think, Google Trends is a great way to see what are the topics that people are talking about in your industry. I think there's a lot of research tools out there. So definitely, take the time to whatever platform kind of is your focus, look on that platform and again, see what other hashtags and keywords are out there that people are using.
Okay, yeah, because I would think that different platforms cater to different audiences, or I don't know too many people in their 60s and 70s who are spending a lot of time on TikTok. I may be wrong. They may be surfing it. They may be totally funding TikTok by what they do. But my hunch is that we're not going to see as many people there. And I know from everything I've read that Meta Facebook, now Meta, has been losing market share. Maybe that will turn around now that they've got, now that they've got Threads. That's going to be interesting to watch and see how that turns out. I have heard different people, we've got artificial intelligence now, and everybody's all aflutter about what artificial intelligence can do. And I know, and I think of it as having certain weaknesses too. There are some things that you can't find out on ChatGPT. But I'm wondering how someone might use something like ChatGPT to research their audience. I don't think they can count on that for every kind of problem someone has. But is that a reasonable way of using artificial intelligence?
I definitely think so. So that's kind of the way I use it. I use it for brainstorming ideas. I use it for doing some, little research. It's not, depending on what tool you use, it's not everyone's connected to the internet, but you can get kind of historical information as well. But I think, you can start saying, what are the biggest issues? Let's say you're a leadership coach with, people in these, CEO roles. What is their biggest leadership issue, right? And it'll probably give you some ideas, right? So I think that's a great kind of brainstorming starting point. But I always caution people to kind of use it for everything. I think we're all unique. And as you talked about brand, we need to show how we're different from every other coach.
Yeah.
We need to put our own unique spin on that, the way we talk about it, maybe the naming, maybe we have our own process or a blueprint or a method, whatever that is. So definitely use it for maybe the beginning points and maybe refining some things, but you need to have kind of the bulk so that it showcases your personality and your unique style. So yeah, brainstorming, doing some market research, I think, whether it's ChatGPT or Bard or whatever you use, I think that can get you started. Do I think it can get you to the finish line? No, but it's a great starting point.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a starting place. And we have an idea of some of the problems that people might be facing. We know that that's not always, the whole picture. And I'm wondering how we might use that as a starting place for creating, not a sales funnel per se, but kind of looking at the stages that someone would need to go through. Is that something that we can do with artificial intelligence? Or do we need to use that as a jumping off place and then use something else to supplement it?
No, I think you can use artificial intelligence for that. When you think about, again, a funnel, they talk about kind of top of funnel. And what that really is talking about are people who don't know us. They're cold is what they call them, right? They've never encountered us before. And we kind of move them down, and that's middle of funnel. So that's when they're kind of aware who we are. Maybe they've been following us for a while. And then they kind of decide to take that next step and do a lead magnet. Right. And then eventually they, are nurtured through our email sequence, and then they can come down to our offer. And so I think that artificial intelligence can help you with the different stages. And you can say, okay, what, is some things that awareness is what they talk about right at the top of the funnel. What are some things that people are wondering about my topic, right? What is the next step, or maybe some questions they have, and then you can provide some lead magnet to answer that. So I do think artificial intelligence can help you think about the different stages, especially if you're stuck. I still recommend typically trying to talk with real people, even if it's kind of a free short interview. You want to get actual language from the market. Like, we don't want to think everything. We want actual market language that we can use in our funnel, because if you can say word for word the way people describe their problem, and you mirror that back to them in your messaging, they will think that in their heads, like that you truly understand.
You're speaking their words.
Exactly. And so they will think that you're the solution then, right? Like, you so deeply understand their problem that now you are exact solution that they want. So even though chat, GPT and others can help, I still think it's so important to talk to real people and get that real marketing language, especially at the beginning, so that, you are sure that the way you describe their problems is exactly how they describe them.
Okay. And you mentioned something that I wanted to revisit for a minute, because I realized we probably left a piece out of this. We're talking about funnels. Could you talk about, I mean, we have the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, how does that work? How does the funnel work?
Mm-hmm. Again, I always try to bring it back to the customer's journey, right? And so at the top of the funnel, it's like they've never seen you before, and maybe you show up on their LinkedIn feed, let's say, right? And so then they go look at your profile and kind of they get to learn a little bit more about you. Maybe they follow you on LinkedIn. So it starts to kind of give them information about you. And then they start seeing your posts and they decide to comment one day, maybe. And then they look at the link in your profile and they start to sign up for you. So that's kind of the middle of the funnel. They're considering you and wanting more information. It's kind of a research phase for you. And then you have your emails and they're still seeing you on LinkedIn. So you're kind of showing up everywhere for them. And they're resonating with you, so that then when you make an offer or you put a proposal or they see the offer on your LinkedIn profile, they can say, yep, I've been following her. She seems to really understand me. She's the one I really want to talk to about working with and taking that next step. So that's the bottom line, when they finally become a client for you.
Okay, yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And one thing I heard you say that I didn't understand at first, but I do understand now, and that was the power of yes. Like getting people to say yes. Could you talk about that just for a moment? Why that's so important?
So I talk about it in terms of micro commitments, is what I call it. And so,
I like that.
Yeah. So we have to kind of build these micro commitments together before we get the final yes. And so, again, a micro commitment can then be maybe liking your post, maybe eventually commenting on your post. Anytime they start an interaction with you of some kind, that's a micro commitment. And we kind of get deeper commitments as we go. So signing up for a lead magnet, giving their email to you, that's kind of a deeper commitment. And then, maybe attending a free event that you have, that's again a deeper commitment because they're, signing up for more. So that then eventually that they would hopefully then pay you to work with them. So you need to kind of build up those micro commitments before they'll actually get to that final sale, especially if you're talking about a cold person who doesn't know who you are. You need those little micro commitments to build up to that.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think one of the things, this is me talking. I'm putting myself into that spot. Which is not always the best thing to do, but it's one thing to say yes to something free, when you download that, and I don't know how many things I've downloaded with the intention that someday I would read, I must have. I think to my right there's a closet here, and if I opened it, a whole bunch of bright and shiny objects would probably come tumbling out, because it's hard it's hard in my mind, and maybe it is in others too, to go from something free to buying your services for $3,000, or $10,000 or whatever it is. And it does seem to me that once people have said yes once, then you're kind of setting up that routine. The other thing that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and I think it's a really important one, is nurturing that relationship, as you said. And there can be different funnels within a funnel, right? Like if you say yes, I want your roadmap, then I might send you something 3 days later that says, hey, would you like to know how to track your goals? Use my. And then follow up and say, well, did it work? Did you have questions? And just continuing to follow up with people. Because I think all of us, I think many of us, but not all of us, many of us are more likely to say yes in smaller increments. Like if I download something and it looks really good and I get some information from that, I'm going to be more likely to download the next one. And I'm wondering, I know there's one more thing I wanted to ask you, because I think we've both alluded to it here. And that is, the promotion of your brand through what you're doing, because that relationship building is so important. And we know, and you alluded to it, and I think it was a really good point to make, is that sales are usually not made by emails or LinkedIn. I mean, you don't make a sale on a direct message. I mean, okay, you could, but I think they're probably few and far between, those opportunities. So, I'm wondering how one kind of makes that transition, and serves people, but doesn't force them into something. I know a lot of coaches that I work with are really afraid of the sales process. That's what they will talk about, the sales process. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit in terms of the nurturing and all of that in the sales process.
Sure. I mean, I see that a lot with coaches and consultants, that they are, they typically want to help people. And so they're like, I'm not a salesperson, and I don't want to be like a sleazy salesperson.
Right.
But I think we all have a certain gift and a certain service that we want to do for somebody. We want to help people. So I always want people to reframe selling as helping. So if you truly believe in your product or service, and you know that it can help and transform someone's life or business, then of course you want to talk about that. And you should be wanting to help these people who have this problem. And so I think when you kind of have the right mindset around sales, it makes it a little easier. I do think kind of what you talked about in terms of nurturing is really important. Again, you want to be able to talk to the person to see if they're a fit for you and you're a fit for them. I mean, I think it's a two-way street, especially thing as close as coaching. You want to make sure that it's good. So having those even direct messages or a phone conversation, they can start to get to know you too through your emails, kind of how you write, how you talk about the work that you do. So there's a lot of ways you can do that, but don't shy away from selling, especially if you really think you can help people. That's the whole goal, is to try to help people. I think most coaches want to do that. So don't shy away from that. That's your business.
Yeah, and somebody put it to me recently in a way that it really changed some of the ways that I thought about it. And they said, think about it this way: you have something that can help this person. Why would you not want to offer it to them? They are, and I know we all have services at different prices. If somebody calls me about, private coaching, I might say, well, maybe this isn't the time for that with you. What if you just did this? It's less of an investment, and then you can be seen how we could possibly work together. One of the things that I hear a lot of hesitancy around is and you said it, how to do sales without feeling that you're being pushy. Because a lot of us have been taught a sales technique that is kind of uncomfortable. And I'm wondering how going through that funnel makes that sales conversation perhaps easier or more productive.
So again, if you have kind of a longer sales funnel for a specific offer, they should already know a lot about you, right? They should already be sold, on kind of the way you are, your personality, kind of if you've talked about your methodology or your approach to this topic, they'll already have some of those questions kind of answered in advance. And so I don't think you really even have to sell. You do have to offer it, right? There's a difference. So
there is a difference, yes.
So I'm not hard selling anyone saying you have to buy this, whatever. But instead, you at least have to say, well, now you've learned all these things about me, and this is how I work with people. I mean, it's quite simple. You don't have to make it salesy or pressure filled. You just present the offer, and you allow them to make the decision. Now, it could be no, and that's fine. But at least if you never offer, they're never going to say yes or no.
And no can lead to other things. Right. Somebody once told me that he looks forward to cold calling because he knows one no leads to the next yes. And that does make sense to me.
It's also a lot of times no now, but not no forever.
Yeah, and that's good. Yeah, I know. I sold a coaching package to someone that I first encountered 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And she'd even gotten off my mailing list at one time and got back on it. So yes, doing that really does help. And I think the other thing that I heard that really kind of spoke to me was that, No, well, first of all, no isn't necessarily no. It could be yes, or it could be no for now. But the other thing was, if someone says, well, I really can't do that right now. I don't have the money for it. And, the thing was, well, let's talk about that. Let's see if we could find a way for you to have more money for this. Could you do this? And I feel that makes me feel really pushy. And it feels really manipulative. And so my husband, who is right across the hall now, would tell you this about me because he went through it. I would say, okay, this week I am making 20 calls. Okay, I'm going to make 20 sales calls. And he'd get all excited and I'd say, yeah, 20 sales calls. And then, so after a while, he figured out I wasn't doing that. So I'd say, okay, if I make 20 sales calls this week, I'll take you to a movie. So we'll go to a movie on Saturday. So, not only did I not make the sales calls, I had a really pissed off husband, because he didn't get to go see the movie. So, and I would promise myself all these things. I would play all these tricks. And it's amazing how many reasons you can come up with not to do something like that. And I know that part of it was that I just felt sleazy when I got off the call. It made me feel not very good about it myself. And I was also being encouraged to offer a package that was more expensive than I thought it should be. And so I didn't believe in what I was selling. How does that come across in a sales conversation? Of they've been all the way through your funnel and they're here talking to you and something doesn't feel quite right?
I think that happens quite a bit because if you don't believe in the value of your service and the price that you put on it, if you don't truly believe that, there's a certain energy that you give off, I think, that they can sense, right? So you have to truly believe, okay, this offer I know has this transformation. It's totally worth this price. Then I think it's easy to sell. And I would say that having that funnel has already warmed them up. It's not like a cold person off the street. So if it's really warm to you, I don't think you have to sell. Like I said, you can kind of go through your methodology or your package, whatever that benefits. But you don't have to sell it. You can just offer it and then let them make that decision. That's kind of the approach that I take.
I like that approach, and I also like the idea of keeping the door open. Looks like we're not going to do business today, and that's okay. Would you like to stay on my mailing list? How can I help? Can I send you this? I think this might be useful to you, and just not push for money right now.
Good thing to offer them another thing. Like that doesn't end the conversation, right? It's kind of the beginning. And so if you can just say, oh, that's fine. If that doesn't work for you now, I have this free whatever, or this, this program or something that might be helpful in the meantime, right? So I think that if you're just kind of authentic and human with them and personable, I think that they'll always remember that and they'll feel like they were taken care of, right? Like it wasn't pushy. It wasn't, you let them say no and it was okay for them to say no.
Yeah.
People remember how you treat them. And so I think when they are ready that they will think of you.
Yeah, and I think people sense if you're not being authentic too.
Sure.
They sense if you're uneasy with what's going on. So, well, listen, Karen, I have learned so much from you. I'm really excited. And I know that you have a free offering for people. And I don't know if Rusty had that ahead of time, but we can drop that in the link to that free gift. Do we have a link, or can I get that from you and we can?
Yeah, you can get that from me, but it's quite simple. So if you have a funnel and you're feeling like it doesn't work, and again, it could be a lead magnet funnel, it could be a funnel to a service or offer, whatever that looks like, I will do a free video review of it. I have a 40-point checklist that I go through, and so I will let you know where I think there's some gaps, maybe.
Wow, that is terrific. Oh my gosh, I'll be the first one. I'm serious. I'll be the first one.
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. Just let them know you were at the summit with Mont, and I'm happy to do that. So again, I'll just you send me the link to your funnel. I'll review it, and I'll send you a video with my thoughts.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in and drop that, that invitation, because they can. So what you want them to do is just connect with you on LinkedIn, say I was at the summit and I would love to get that sales funnel review.
Exactly. That's simple.
Watch, because I'm going to be the first one on the list. You think I'm kidding, but I'm not. I will be there. So Karen, this was absolutely amazing. And I'm so thankful that you were on, because it's something that's really kind of mysterious to a lot of us. And I think particularly to a lot of us who are in the coaching profession.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just kind of, it's there. So I am going to encourage everyone. I'm going to put something in the chat too, that, we'll put your LinkedIn profile and tell people to connect with you on LinkedIn and ask for that video review. Oh my gosh, that is just such a generous gift. I really want to thank you for that. And I had one more question before we leave. Is there one question that you always wish you asked? Or is there one question that's a great thing to ask at the end?
Interesting. About funnels. So, people always ask me, do I need a funnel? Should I create one right away? And again, we kind of talked about that, but this question is so important. I think this is kind of what people struggle, especially coaches, is first work on your offer, have an offer that people really resonate with, and then you can think about building out the funnel.
Yeah, so that's an interesting, and I want to encourage. I want to talk about that just for another minute with you, if I may, because I'm a LinkedIn expert. There are probably, I haven't Googled it, but I would be willing to bet there's more than one of us on LinkedIn. I think that sometimes what's the question I want to ask? Sometimes we don't know the next step that we can offer them. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we don't know how to move them past that free offer to a sales conversation. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if there are any pointers you might have about this is kind of a crazy question, but what happens when the sale goes wrong, or what happens when the conversation goes wrong? What do you do then?
Right. So, again, I think it's all about trying to be human, trying to be authentic. So not every person is right for you. And sometimes you'll get on the phone with somebody maybe who's not the right fit. So I always try to then assess afterwards, what could have maybe I have done? So sometimes, from the free lead magnet you might have, sometimes having a small introductory kind of course or some kind of small program that they can get a taste of that before the larger kind of coaching package.
Yeah.
That can help. I always recommend, like in your calendar, whatever system you use, to have some questions. So like if money is an issue, I try to eliminate that early so that we don't get on a call with somebody who they think my package is 1,000 and it's 10,000. That's just not going to happen. And so I try to eliminate that, qualify people before we get on the call.
So how would you ask that question? I think I've got two mics going here. How would you ask that question?
So like in a questionnaire, a lot of times, and even on my pages, if I have a price, or I'll say range, my packages range from, 1,000 to 5,000. So before we even get on the call, they already know it's not $100, right? That's not the range. So I think a lot of people shy away from saying the exact price, but you can say things like, do you have a budget for packages ranging from 1,000 to 5,000? So that at least gives them an idea. This isn't a good fit. So before we even get on the call, if that's not a good fit, then they probably won't finish filling out the form. So that's why one way you can do is to have a questionnaire of some kind.
Yeah, and I also heard someone recently say that this also gives you, if they go through all this gives you the option of saying, no, I don't think we're a good fit, but listen, here's my LinkedIn roadmap. Use this to get started. So yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think, what you're talking about that really, penetrates to this person who doesn't like cold calls, is that we don't have to be that way. Right. We're offering to help. And it's like any other thing. People can turn us down. They don't necessarily want our help.
Right.
Hopefully they do, but not necessarily. And we are all in business, and I think sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that.
Mhm.
That in order to keep going, we have to have clients. I mean, COVID really changed a lot of people's approach. I was already online, but a lot of people weren't. And when you have to pivot that way, as small business owners and as coaches, most of us are solopreneurs, or we've got, our virtual assistant, or maybe we're lucky and we have our husband, mine's back there, our husband helping us out, but we are small businesses. And losing a client or 3 clients can really put a world of hurt on us. So.
And that's how a funnel can help, because it's already warming people up for you in advance. So it's not like you have to find a new person who's never heard of you. You already have some people kind of in the pipeline that could potentially then be ready to take that next step. So that's why once you, like I said, have that validated offer, start building out some kind of funnel. So you're always having people find out more about you. You can nurture them so that, at the point where you need a client, there's some people there ready, waiting for you.
That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, I know someone who says they can get clients on demand, and I'm not quite sure that you can always get clients on demand, but I know you can get a lot of clients by being present and being, what do I want to say, proactive on LinkedIn. We can't always wait, for the next shoe to drop. So Karen, I just want to thank you so much. You stepped up to the plate. I reached out to you and said, I need to know about funnels. Can you come on and talk about funnels? And you have been so clear and have really helped, I think, have helped us understand how we can start with a funnel on LinkedIn and then keep nurturing people throughout that cycle until they become a client. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. You really stepped in, and I think you helped a whole lot of people today. So
well, thank you so much for having me. And I love talking about funnels and hopefully breaking it down and making it clear for people. So yes, please reach out. I love to review funnels, and I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. We will touch base soon.
Yes, sounds good. Bye.